It's on live. Okay. Sorry, man. We're on live. We're live now. You can put on your mic and camera. Okay. So welcome to a legal perspective on the political happenings in Edo State. This is part of our digital conversation series by the Business Days Legal Business Unit, and it's also in collaboration with the Edo Political Forum. Joining me today is Omoa Alonge Oniopaku, former Commissioner for Environment and Sustainability. Good morning, madam, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Okay. As suggested in the title of this event, the distinguished guest will provide legal analysis on some of the recent events surrounding the Edo State election, and this will take the form of an interview. You can post your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom or whichever platform you are watching from. Okay, ma, let me begin with separation of powers. Separation of powers refers to the division of government responsibilities into distinct branches to limit any one branch from exercising the core function of the other. Do you think there's anything that's happened in Edo State recently in the political arena that sort of undermines the doctrine of separation of power?
I'm a lawyer to start with, so there are a couple of things that have happened or the people have said have happened, but you want to be able to speak, like you say, to the legal perspective of it. But I think at the point where we're doing that, for most lawyers, most of these issues are already in court and being determined by the courts. And so we're then constrained to be able to give an opinion on those issues. And most of the issues that we should discuss about separation of powers, if there have been any issues or any way some people feel that they have been undermined or they've been oppressed, or one arm of the three arms, is being said to be doing one or two things that are neither here nor there. But the law states that we must have facts and we must be able to prove those facts. Now, in the issue where a lot of these issues have risen, especially with the National House of Assembly in Edo State, the issues are already in court. So we're waiting to see how the various...
Yes, ma'am. Sorry to interject, but you don't need to speak specifically on any issue. Okay. You can speak generally around the topic, and the sort of salient aspects. Okay, carry on, please, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, maybe I should give you a political view of what it is. Obviously, we all have seen the issues. It's been judicially noticed, the things that have happened in Edo State. We've heard from both sides. I used to be the Commissioner for Environment under this present administration. And I can say that I have been there to see. I'm not a member of the House of Assembly, but if you look at both facts, if you look at what the 19 House members are saying vis-a-vis the 7 House members, vis-a-vis what happened based on their inauguration processes and why they seem to be saying that they've been unfairly treated, I believe that the Constitution gives them room to be able to pursue this matter further, which they have. The other side as well believes that they've done nothing wrong and they've done things properly. They have also pursued their issues in court as it speaks, as it stands. But if we look at it, there are several locus classicals, there are various legal precedents, there are various things that we can look at. It can be interpreted in various ways, but we all know what is right and what is wrong, and what seems right and what seems wrong. So regardless of how we interpret the Constitution, I think the Constitution is clear. And I think when an issue like that had arisen at some point, in one of the cases, I remember it was Obaseki GSE, I think it was Attorney General of Edo State versus, I'll try and get the cases, I'll try and remember it. But I remember it said the basis for the entire Constitution is to make sure that things are done properly and things are done in a legal manner. And that's really why the Constitution is there. It's meant to be for the common man to feel safe, for them not to feel oppressed, for things to go on well. So
let me just interject. Hypothetically speaking, if there turns out to be a discovery of flagrancy of this separation of powers, why do you think these type of situations happen in Edo State? What is so unique about Edo politics that brings up these type of issues almost frequently?
Okay, well, I don't think it's only Edo State. I remember that I've heard this being written about, and I remember one of our senior colleagues, Lionel, had mentioned that it had happened in Oyo State at some point where you had, those sorts of issues. It's not predominant to Edo. I just think that we make a lot of noise, a bit more than every other person does. But the truth about it is that the House of Assembly is meant to be the House of Assembly, is meant to be a representative of all of the people. Okay, so if there is anything whatsoever that shakes that place, you then see it being blown, in a way that, because you find different local governments coming up to say, oh, they don't agree with this, oh, their people are not being sworn in. I think what has happened with Edo basically will start with the things that happened initially. I don't think that a lot of people agreed with the inauguration of the House members, where some people boycott, where others do not boycott. Now, it's a lot of hearsay, but I believe that when the National Assembly waded in, we saw it on the news, even though I was working there as well. I only saw it on the news as well, where investigations were being made, where people were investigated. So they must have a result of those investigations. It's the outcome of those investigations that I guess we are seeing, with the present happenings and the position of the Attorney General of the Federation based on a lot of that. They haven't come back to press to say this is what we found out from those happenings. But from what we've seen trickle down from there, we can tell, how that is leaning, and that's really all I can say. Okay,
thank you very much for that comment. It actually dovetails nicely into my second question, and that is the National Assembly and its interference with state assembly issues. So at the point, the National Assembly threatened to take over the powers of the State House of Assembly. And this was something that was touted as the first of its kind in Nigerian politics, Nigerian political history. Is there any justification for that type of interference by the National Assembly?
If we go back to the books of history, and I try to read a lot, I don't think it's the first time it's happening in our polity. I think it happened years ago. I think it was during Akintola, Awolowo, and all that times. We've seen things like this, go on. We've read about it. We were a bit too young to know the basic facts of the case, but it's being referred to in the things that have to be spoken about. Now, I've tried to read parts of the House rules and the standing rules of the National Assembly just to understand a bit of, I expected this question, and they have rules that tells them when and what to do based on issues that arise in House of Assemblies around the states and the Federation. And I believe they must have done what they needed to do before. If we notice, it came on press. We saw it on TV when they came in, when they interrogated some of the members and the clerk and different sorts of interrogations were going on. It was on channels, it was on the news, everybody saw it. So
yeah, I think I saw it as well.
it boils down to the same thing. What were the conclusions of that interrogation? Whatever the conclusion of that interrogation comes to, their standing rules basically states that if there is a breakdown in law and order and they think that the center cannot fit, they then have a right to wade in. Now, I think the issue here from the two proponents that are positing, some angles say everything has gone wrongly, and another angle says nothing has gone wrongly. So it depends on what side you're leaning on. You're going to find the position of law that suits you. But you see, in this discussion, I hope that what we take away is that we're able to be not sentimental about the issues and actually look at what it is that can better our people and better our state. So we don't have the sort of reputation, like you're saying now, how come we are always different and having to come up fighting all the time over issues like this? Yeah.
The general view is that National Assembly would really only get involved in situations of emergency. Yeah. So it almost paints it as being drastic, in very drastic situations. That's when it can get involved. But we look at Edo politics, and people are saying that their reason for interference doesn't fall under that emergency category. So why is it now? Why is it being done?
Cuba, sorry. Be honest. Let's discuss it simply, and let me be single on the fact that I don't know both sides. You have how many members of the House? 18. And the clerk 19. You have quite a number of them, and then you have 9, and then you have another, or you have a sizable number who say that they haven't been inaugurated properly. Out of the initial amount, you saw 2 or 3 come out again to say that they were abducted. You see, now none of us were in these places. We really were not there, but we can only deal with what we are told. And these people have come out, they've come out on press, they've come out to say that this is what happened to us. So now let's start looking at it. If you have 7 members or 6 members or 8 members or 9 members or 10 members, and you have 15 or 20 who are not happy, so you have more unhappy people than you have happy people. The people who are unhappy, they have not been inaugurated. We saw the inauguration, we saw people, we saw and there's an argument about that also. It's meant to be a ceremony. People come with their families, people dress up for it. There is a dress code for public servants in Nigeria. I am a public servant, so I know. So it's either you're wearing English or you're wearing full native. So people are looking at the story and saying, okay, some people came in shorts. They said it was in middle of the night. Okay, what time really was it? Was it in middle of the night? What is the official time for us working time in Nigeria as public servants? Is it 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Is it 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.? So we can start looking at those things. The people who are angry for a reason. If we don't deal with that, and that's the populace, that's what democracy is all about. You can't have the less amount of people, maybe the elitists who are happy, and then you have more of the people out there who are unhappy, and then we're saying not listen to them. We don't think there's anything going wrong because the elitist few are able to come out on air more, shout more. Is the house full? Is the house fully inaugurated? Those are the questions. If it is not, the other members that were not inaugurated, whatever their stories are, can they be happy? They must be speaking to other people. They must be writing petitions. They must be fighting to come to get their mandates because they've been elected. So that's where the issues come. So you don't know how many petitions the National Assembly receives every day from all these members. You don't know, they're not just going to be sitting down. They're going to want to fight. and that's what they're doing. And you see, based on that, the National Assembly can then sit down to decide if that is seen as a state of emergency or not. We don't have the right to sit outside and no, we don't think that stems to be a state of emergency, because on the other side, we see everything seems to be going on well.
Yeah, I completely understand. I completely understand that position.
To it right now, and we have to look at both sides. One side has more numbers than the other side. So if they are complaining, the complaints are definitely going to be coming more than the side who thinks they don't have a problem. So, so I think that's what it really is. Yes.
I guess at the end of the day, majority really should have priority. Okay, so just finally, I want to, and I think this also ties into that question. Can you shed light on a quorum, the legal term, in the context of the state's House of Assembly, and whether a quorum is required for the validity of a resolution passed at the House of Assembly?
Okay, I'll talk to you now like a lawyer.
Okay.
Basically, to understand what a quorum is an essential procedural issue that ensures validation of any act, of any conduct of the members that agree to be governed by that procedural act. Okay, now what does that mean? We have board quorums. Banks can meet except their quorums are formed. Private institutions, once they have gone public, can't meet except quorum is formed. So that tells you as a layman, or whoever it is who is listening, what a quorum is meant to be. Now, if you have more members outside and less members inside, it's not rocket science, it's common sense. So when you look at it, it's like saying that where you keep your money in a bank, and there are 24 board members, and it takes 18 to form a quorum, and 7 sit down and say they formed a quorum and they are going to decide on your money, on how your money should be spent. You should kick against it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's reasonable.
So now, when we talk about this sort of, that is why I say as well, this issue on itself is in court, is a matter in court as we speak. But let's just come out as laymen. If you have more members outside than the members inside, has a quorum been formed? What is the, so that is, it's very easy. So if 7 members decide amongst 9 of us, 5 will form a quorum, and you leave the other members who were elected like you, and they are outside and they are not being determined into that forum, is there any legality in such a forum? That's why we have the courts to decide a lot of these issues. This quorum issue, as regards the Edo State House of Assembly, is a matter pending in court. And it will be interesting to see what the court say, because it goes ahead to affect our everyday lives, public businesses where they are shareholders. So let's understand what it is, because it's a government that sets the pace that the private sector is going to follow. So whatever decisions...
Just to remind people of the recent happenings in that regard, we're saying that 7 people out of 24 sat down and passed a resolution. That's the meat of the argument. And according to the last lawyer I had, Mr. Charles, to someone, SAN, he said that it's a 1/3. It's a 1/3 of that total that is required for a quorum to be formed.
Yes.
But 7 isn't 1/3 of 24.
Okay. Now let me explain something to you. This has happened in Oyo State, as I was saying to you, and I had to go back, into my legal mind to come out with it again. It was a decision and a resolution made in the House of Assembly of Oyo State, and it was a position that went to the Supreme Court in the case of Inajoko versus Madele case, the 2007 case, and in the said case, 18 members of the House out of 32 members of the Oyo State House of Assembly purportedly had it sitting at a hotel in Ibadan and removed the then governor, Rashid Ladoja. The Supreme Court held that the removal was invalid for lack of quorum of the House of Assembly, being two-thirds of the members. Now we can say there are different sorts of positions, okay? Being someone who has worked in the state government, and I understood some of the things that were going on at the time, there are different sorts of positions to look at. Okay, we're not very sure what happened that made the inauguration of the other House members. That's still a bit hazy to me. If that is cleared, then some questions can be easily answered. Because if that is cleared and you say the members just didn't show up, they didn't want to show up, they were not interested, then on that basis, their seats can be declared vacant. If their seats are declared vacant, then there are procedures to go through for these issues to basically come to this light and basically be taken from there. If those seats then become vacant, what then happens, or what it presupposes, is that they no longer exist until another election is done, and then 7 members can then form a quorum. So it's like if you are a shareholder in Union Bank and the members and the board members are 24, and then 12 out of them just miraculously die, that is a statement of fact. The others can then, based on that, form a quorum. But these members who are also screaming their own side of the story are neither dead nor incapacitated. They are giving their own end of the story why they could not attend that inauguration. And the two things that they held on to was that they weren't given enough notice and it was held at night. And they were not duly informed. Now, I have tried to read in between the lines and the rules, but it is always against the person who purports and the person who is on the receiving end. So, you have to balance both stories and see how it falls through in your brain as an intellectual person, as someone, who, we can all put our minds together and see the veracity of some of these claims.
Okay, I must say that your analogies are very entertaining, although bleak. But that concludes the session. I want to thank you very much for your time.
Did you say?
Thank you for.
No, you see, sometimes it's very difficult to give legal.
Oh, I was by bleak. I was referring to your analogy, not the the comment. Yes.
Oh, okay. Now, also, one tries to, as we go on with our work and with life and with how far we want to go and how well we want to do it, we want to learn from experiences and take other people's experiences and walk through it. It's not the time to throw arrows or throw blames. It's a government that I have been in, that I worked in, and I can only tell you statement of facts that I am aware of. I can tell you how my brain is thinking. I can tell you what questions I ask myself every day, and some of them I still don't have answers to. I want to believe that the government that I worked for meant well. I want to believe that what the other people are saying as well is true. I want to check the gray areas and see what my conscience tells me as well, because people are only going to say, everybody says the story to suit themselves. You as the individual has to be able to pick in between the lines and dot your I's and cross your T's to make sure that you do not make a mistake of perception first, and you do not make an elitist, you do not put yourself in a position to give elitist views that do not trickle down to help the common man. So I believe when all these things come out to fore, the questions are simple. Once we know what really happened with the investigations National Assembly held in Edo State, if they bring those results to us, we then can know what really happened on the night of this inauguration or the daytime of this inauguration, because they interviewed the clerk. So let's know. the clerk was mumbling between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. None of the times are accurate. So, you know, those things.
Very, very well said. Very well put, Ma.
Yeah.
But this interview will be available on our YouTube platform and all our Business Day platforms. So you can feel free to visit those platforms to have a look. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. And I want to say, enjoy the rest of your day. And,
thank you. Thank you very much, Ruba.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.